Okay, you guys, this video set is going to take the place of what we would have done in class. So this is my favourite project to set in your first year because it's going to drastically improve the quality of your work, so you're going to totally level up before you hit second year. So a good quote that I'm going to start with is all about studying the light. So a good understanding of light will drastically expand a photographer's ability to create great images. Learning to read and manipulate light can be quite a revelation. So the kind of quality that you're going to get in your work, the atmosphere, the drama, a lot of that can come from understanding and using the light. So the first thing we're going to talk about is colour temperature. So it refers to the various shades of colour that are produced by different light sources. So you guys will already know a little bit about this from science. So it's measured on something called the Kelvin scale, from the cooler blue-tinged end of the spectrum to the warmer reddish-coloured end. So changes also happen throughout the day, depending on the time and the amount of clouds in the sky. So at dawn, a bit like it is here, the sky appears light blue. At sunset, it appears orange, which we call the golden hour. And at dusk, we call it the blue hour. The sky appears violet blue. So you know from the different points of the sun in the sky, different times of day, the light will have a different kind of coloration. Similarly also, like you know that the shadows are on the cooler end, and also some lights from like inside the house can have like an orange cast as well. So being aware of those can have like a huge effect on the atmosphere of your work. In thinking about window light, that's what I'm going to look at first, especially because we're all stuck in lockdown. I think that this could be like a really good source for you guys and something that you could pay attention to. So it's a kind of gentle illumination of natural light. It can be really flattering and we can get really good results from it as well. So thinking about how you can control it. So here, really strong sunlight coming through the blinds there. So the blinds are partially opened. Here, really strong sunlight, but the curtains are slightly closed. Here, the light's a bit more overcast. So they've got more like a gentle sort of calm lighting. This one, a bit more like golden hour because the sun, you can see the rays there are that much warmer. Sunset. So you're thinking about looking and studying it coming through the window at different times of day. Think about things like colour. So here we've got that nice pop of the record. And also think about shadows, how they can help inform your image and make that more interesting and dynamic. So here you've almost got like a duplicate of the flower in the framing coming from the window. And here it casts nice long shadows. When you're working as well, think about like the different ways that you can move around and alter. So think about composition, but also think about multiple angles or different ways that you could shoot under the same conditions, because the light is going to change quite quickly. So being quite dynamic, moving around, looking above, looking through, also thinking about things that aren't regular. So these are a kind of self-portrait, but they're not a person taking a selfie. It's not like a regular standing in front of a camera shot. They're doing or holding something, and that can make it a bit more dynamic. When you're looking for the window light, you need to start thinking about having more control. So switch off any artificial lights in the room. Experiment, like we said, with opening and closing curtains or blinds, so you've got as much control over it as possible. So here's my little example where I used Reggie sitting at my bedroom window. It's golden hour because I knew that that would complement like his nice golden fur, and also it's picking up loads of like little highlights on there as well, so it's got like a really warm kind of feel to it. You can also get some interesting effects if you've got like window coverings, like net curtains and things like that, blinds, and that can be able to create like shadows and patterns on the face. If this side is too dark, for example, what you could do is you could create a reflector. So if you've got a piece of A4 paper or something like that, and if you held it up on this side of the model, it would direct that light and it would bounce it back onto her face. You can actually relieve some of the shadows if they seem too dark. I like windows just as a series themselves, so it could be an abstract image where you're just looking at like shadows or shapes. So here's like one that I took of my bathroom window. So looking at the shapes and also like the sort of reflections that it's picked up in the background there. This was one I took in Yorkshire Sculpture Park. Also, you've got natural light outside, so being safe and staying in a socially distanced place making sure that you're working really, really carefully, you could go out somewhere that's very local to you. I'm not saying put yourself in danger or anything like that, but using the light from the sun at different times of day. So experimenting with angles to create an illuminated effect, or shooting into the sun through your subject matter can highlight the colours found. So this is like a really gorgeous one from my friend Michelle, who's also a photography teacher, where she's looking at how the light catches on those bluebells and illuminates them and finds different colours there. It's almost like a little bit of a lilac-y purple. This is my friend Charlie, and this is his back garden. So he's a photographer, but looking at that really dynamic range of like the lush greens and then the light in the background. This is a photographer that we'll get onto in a second, and that could be really interesting in terms of looking at those street scenes, maybe even with like a bit of a Christopher Thomas kind of feel because there's less people around. Here's a couple of examples that I took. So I live really close to Daisy Nook, so I can do that pretty safely. I took this one on my street not that long ago when there was a couple of blossoms, but thinking about that angle, really looking up. These ones were thinking about the light creating that illuminating type effect. So here, the light's coming through, and it's also like cast a shadow, which make these look almost like silhouettes, which make it an interesting image. And here I'm shooting into the sun, looking for that backlit kind of effect where it really illuminates the leaves but also shows me all the different colours there that I found. Now we've talked a bit about backlight, so it can be used kind of in like travel photography or portraits to create quite dreamy kind of images, but thinking about the kind of circumstances that we're under, maybe thinking about using like a window as a backlight because we're probably going to be indoors a lot. Also thinking about maybe setting up like a torch or something like that and using that to backlight maybe a still life. Or here, this one's kind of like backlit from the side, but you're kind of thinking about casting those shadows into the foreground, which can be really exciting. So we can get some really quite nice backlit images as well. Backlit images are really effective because they actually create a silhouetting kind of effect. So these generally best work with strong, simple shapes, and it often helps to shoot upwards towards the sky to remove excess clutter. So here in this street scene, we've got lots of people just milling around, doing the regular kind of thing, and it would have been quite ordinary if it wasn't for that quality of light here, where they've got like those really long dynamic shadows and they're shooting into the sun. It's created a lot more drama, whereas before it would have just been like people like hanging out in the street. So it's the way that they've turned the figures into silhouettes and they've got those long cast shadows that it's made it really interesting. Here's a couple of examples where I've used backlighting, so glasses work really nice because you can see like the different silhouetted shapes but different coloured tones that come through there. Also, this is from my old flat where I used to live. I'm kind of shooting more into the sunset there for that one, but it's like left these images here, or these parts of the image, more underexposed, so they turn into a silhouette. So I'm thinking about the quality of light on the top of the roof there and the residual light in the background, so that looks really effective. Also, we have blue hour. So this is the first of like the times of day that we're going to look at. So just before or just after sunset, you've got some residual light. So like it's not come above the horizon line yet, the sun, but we've still got light in the sky. So it's very quiet and you get like this kind of really nice shadowy atmospheric kind of light. So you can kind of use that to your advantage, and here you can see lots of warm tones that work as a nice complement. So I've put some natural images in there, kind of put almost like maybe the idea of like architecture, that could be your street, that kind of thing. But if we just jump onto this next slide there, what I'm looking at is the idea that the blue cast of this hour, it creates that kind of feeling and that kind of atmosphere, and we're looking at it with like complementary shades of orange there. So here in this one there's a fire. That fire creates that illuminating kind of effect. There's some highlights picked up on her hands, on the bottom of her chin there, but it creates a balance so that it doesn't look washed out, it doesn't look too low light, it doesn't look boring. Also, I kind of felt that one was a bit American, so I found this one from Brighton. Obviously you've got nice leading lines there, but it's that type of weather you wouldn't typically think would be great for photography, but the actual sky and the clouds, they create a lot more drama. Also, we've got the oranginess or the warmer tones in that artificial light that's on the pier there. So you can create that kind of illumination and that kind of interesting focus by having that as part of a balance. Another good example is this one. So this is a really beautiful portrait. So it is blue hour, but it's like very overcast as well. So the clouds there, a lot of diffusion. So what they've done is they've really focused and made sure that they've got that background blur. So the focus is on the model's face, and it's very calming there because the light's really soft because of the diffusion from the clouds. There's no shadows, so it feels super peaceful, and it's got that really nice blue cast, but the actual contrast from the red lip makes a really nice addition there. So that's something that you might want to focus on. Blue hour can be a pretty good one as well, especially considering we can't control the times of day, or we can't control the lighting that we're going to get, certainly not in Manchester. So you might actually like to think about something like that. Could be really cool. So golden hour is the easiest lighting situation. So basically it's like this gorgeous, warm, side lit, drama creating, really, really amazing light for anything pretty much. It's like a cheat code for photography. So you get stunning photos, and it's the period shortly after sunrise or before sunset. So it's where the daylight is redder and softer, and when the sun is higher in the sky. Because when it's high up, it creates those like horrible like downcast shadows, but this, it's side lit, so you've got real control over it there. It's very flattering. It's also like that beautiful warm feeling. So when I'm saying side lit here, you can see the sun's coming down there, so instead of it being above that tree, it's coming down to the side, and it's creating that really nice dramatic shadow there that comes off the bike and comes off the tree. Same for landscapes. We've got some really gorgeous landscapes last year because it creates all of these warm tones, but it creates all of those shadows in the landscape, so it stops it looking flat, makes it look really lush and exciting. Obviously though, please only do that if this is literally really close. So if you live in the countryside, or you can get that on your dog walk where you're safely moving around and you're not putting yourself at risk there.